Why talk about art? I think one thing that we should probably start with is that art is a visual form. There's lots of visual stimuli in all of our lives, and many people spend almost all of their day taking in visual stimuli. From the moment that you wake up, everything you're seeing, your brain is already making sense of that. And because most of us are in spaces where we wake up at the same place probably a lot of times, your brain doesn't even need to think about it. You're doing all this sort of unconscious thinking, making meaning of visuals. And so even if you don't think of yourself as a visual person, you probably are. You're probably spending the majority of your data, all the stuff that's coming in is probably visual. Even in this conversation, you're hearing my voice, but you're probably looking around my room. You're maybe seeing where my sweater matches my backdrop, and you're noticing that I have a couple different patterns. You might have not even noticed that you thought those things, that those things are just back there. And so one thing that happens when you're in museums is you might feel a little bit uncomfortable. You might think, "Oh, I came with a friend. I don't know what I'm supposed to do." And for a lot of people, talking, using words is a great way to make sense of visuals that don't make sense. Now, think about if you're watching a TV show and you're with somebody and you don't know what's happening, and you look around the scene and it's maybe some sort of like I don't know, Scandinavian noir or something. You don't speak the language, you can't like hear it, you don't know what's happening. Walk in, you look around what you're seeing. You might say to the person who is already watching it, "What's happening?" That is very common, and that's something we do when we're thinking about a lot of kinds of leisure activities. You're in a ballet and you don't really like ballet. What's happening? That is completely important at museums, and not only okay, but very important. You have to start with somewhere, orient yourself. And so if language is a useful way to orient yourself, that's a great place to start. And if you're with me or without a museum educator, then you can do it yourself. What am I looking at is a great place for you to start using words for the things you're seeing. The key though is to try to keep the judgments away. So don't say like, "Ooh, I don't know what this is and it's ugly." If you can just wait a minute, and we'll talk about the judgments in a moment. They're valid, but just start by not doing that and instead saying, "I see," and then to yourself. And you might feel, you don't have to say it out loud, and you might feel juvenile, but truthfully, everybody's doing that. It's not as if somebody, even a scholar, starts with looking at it and naming the things that they see. There's a word in our history called ekphrasis. That is basically just saying what I see, usually in text, but you could do it verbally, or you could just do it in your mind. So you look at the work, there's a blue circle, there's a squiggle, and try to name them, especially if they're things that seem like squiggles and blobs and ooh, what? Shade and all those things that seem unnameable, the organic things, the linear things, all those things that seem like they're not realistic. Those are great things to name, to try to sort of name. And then once you've done that, you've spent actually quite a lot of time looking at it, and then you can decide if you appreciate it. That's when those value judgments come back. There is no requirement when you walk in a museum that you have to like it all. But I bet if you spend some time sort of looking at it, and talking about it and making meaning of it, you might like it a little more, like it a little less, uh, but at least have a chance to form a really valid opinion that feels like it's not just "I don't get it," but instead, "Oh, I get what, like I see what I'm looking at, but I still don't really, it doesn't work for me." That means that you can keep doing it, and then you might find that there's something in there that you were surprised by. So by talking about art, what you end up doing is finding deeper levels of meaning and looking for surprises, and most importantly, engaging and enjoying yourself, because art is really not a passive experience. It's supposed to be an active experience. It has been for history. So make it active by making it part of the act of exploring. Make talking the way that you connect with collections.